try to keep it as clean as possible. We'll try to get it done as quickly as possible.
All right, we are live.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
How you doing, everybody? And welcome to the Moffett on the Mic radio show. We are live on a Monday night, courtesy of the A1 Sports Network. I am Craig Moffett, and besides me, as always, COVID-free, the one and only Chris Klim.
What's up, Craig?
So listen, I am very impressed with the A1 Sports Network health and safety protocols. It was very impressive. You know, I know you do this out of your basement, and your budget is basically that little banner behind you. But I really appreciate you keeping us all safe. So on behalf of the Phenomenal Forum, on behalf of the Hockey Podcast, but as a viewer of the A1 Sports Network and a supporter, I think it's time you cancel the Sauna Chronicles.
No, I can't cancel the Sauna Chronicles. You know how many people actually like the Sauna Chronicles? They text me and they'll comment on it and be like, I love the Sauna Chronicles.
I'm going to warn you right now. I'm telling you that's 2 steps away from being on the National Sex Offender Registry.
Oh, I do not get naked in the sauna. The shorts on all the time.
I'm just saying, but I digress. So we got a lot to do, not a lot of time to do it. You can follow the show as always on Instagram at Moff on the Mic and on my Facebook page as well. Follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I apologize if I'm not too animated. My voice is a little hoarse from, I don't know. I don't think it's COVID. I'm pretty sure it's not, but what can I do? So, but we got a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. We'll get into the Giants. We'll get into the Jets. We'll get into Antonio Brown. We'll get into day one. I did watch some of it. I watched about half of it. I still have to finish the other half. Pretty decent, pretty good pay-per-view, man. I was actually very surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
by how good it was. We'll get into Jake Paul ruining boxing once again. So we'll get into that. All right, Klim, let's get into the Giants first. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of debate a few questions that I have. And, Klim's going to give his spot and I'm going to give mine. And what?
Hold on. Before we start, already first comment. See, the Sauna Chronicles need to stay. See,
Okay.
look,
I can't argue with your base, man.
I kid you not. Like, I've never had people come like literally slide into my DMs like, "Oh my god, I love the Sauna Chronicles." I'm like, I don't even do anything like outrageously like crazy in the Sauna Chronicles. Like, but people love them. People love the Sauna Chronicles. I
It's
can't.
like you just sit there. It's funny because you sit there with your freaking hairy chest, like you're freaking ravishing Rick Rude, right? And you're just like, yeah, man. And it's like if I didn't know any better, I mean, you definitely were like must have been like smoking a few blunts before you like sat down. I was like, you're so sedated, you know, like
Well, no, because I usually do the Sauna Chronicles like right when I'm like done with my workout, so I'm exhausted by that time. That's why probably.
And then all the other people in the sauna with their bare asses are like, "Oh my god, this guy's a freaking
Oh,
what's this guy doing?"
I see. I never do it when there's people I don't know in there. So usually 90% of the time, it's either I'm doing it with my friends that I'm in there with, or I'm doing it by myself. That's
Right.
usually it. I never do it with random people because then I'll be the weird guy in the sauna and they'll be like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
Okay, well, listen, I cannot argue with your base. You got to give the fans what they want. That's the beauty of the A1 Sports Network. So I will concede defeat on the Sauna Chronicles.
It's the people.
Okay?
It's the people's network, and the people want the Sauna Chronicles.
And the people have spoken. So far be it from me to argue. So I will no longer. We will. This debate is officially over. Advantage Klim. So, all right. So here we go. So the Giants, with their latest embarrassment yesterday, they lose 29-3 to the Chicago Bears in a game that was just. I didn't see it, but I could just tell by the score that it was just bad. The Giants only had 151 yards of total offense. Mike Glennon only completed 4 passes for 24 yards, and he had a quarterback rating of 5.3, which I didn't even know you could get that low. But I guess the one bright spot of the game was Saquon Barkley getting his first 100-yard game in 2 years, which goes to show you how bad that draft pick is. But that wasn't the embarrassing part, though. The embarrassing part is what happened after the game, when Joe Judge had his press conference. And listen, Joe Judge has taken a lot of crap. Like, he's taken a ton of crap. Rightfully so, because the team should be better. However, his comments after the game were a little bit, like, weird, I guess, because I think he was getting peppered with questions about the culture and, like, you promised this and everything, and, you know, it doesn't look like they're delivering. I mean, if you want my honest opinion, I think the Giants quit on the game yesterday. Nothing really about that game. When you get 151 yards of total offense, either your coaching staff is completely incompetent and has no idea how to orchestrate a game plan against a bad team like Chicago, or your team quit on it. There is no in between. You want to argue a little bit of both? Be my guest. I'm telling you right now, that's what it is. Judge comes out, and I had to write this down because I thought this was hilarious. So Judge said, he claims, because basically he's being asked questions about, you know, the team and all that stuff. He claims that pending free agents for the Giants are begging him to stay, and that former Giants that are no longer on the team and signed contracts with other teams are calling him twice a week saying they wish they were still playing in New York for him. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
The coaching staff is a disaster. Everything is pretty much a disaster with this team, to the point now where I think that this job is completely toxic.
Oh, it's
not even about whether you can fix them. I'm not even sure where you begin.
There's too many holes and too many problems on this team for you to put a Band-Aid on it and be like, okay, you know, we'll sign this guy in the offseason or we'll draft this guy. No. They really do need to tear it all down, like we said about the Jets when Joe Douglas was hired. You need to tear it all down, start fresh, because this Giants team is just terrible.
All right, noted, and you're right, 100% right. So, Klim, in your opinion, what took the bigger hit yesterday? Judge's chances of returning for a third season, or the Giants finding an outside general manager to work with him next season?
Finding an outside general manager to work with him, because Like, no matter what, literally, Joe Judge literally got the tenure for next year. He can literally crap up and down MetLife Stadium if he wanted to, and he'll still have a job next year. But people wanting to come in and trying to get people from the outside source that isn't already there with the Giants, it's gonna be tougher because people are gonna be like, who's saying these things? Because these are not true things that Joe Judge is saying. And who wants to work with this maniac? No one.
Well, you're right. And we talked about this last week on the show, on Thursday on the show, and I said that the only way that it's going to work with Joe Judge for a third year is if you promote from within, because those are the only people that really know Joe Judge. And the thing is if Joe Judge is this bad of a head coach, why would you give him the influence to go hire his own general manager? You see what I mean?
Right.
He's done nothing to warrant that. He's done nothing to get that, he should not be rewarded with getting more power by allowing him to kind of work with whoever he wants to work with. The worst part about it is that, you have a chance to hire a very, a good general manager.
Mm-hmm.
If you let that guy pick his head coach. And they don't want to do that. They want to bring in somebody that either Joe Judge is very familiar with, or a guy that's so desperate to be a general manager, he's willing to work with Joe Judge.
Yeah.
And after watching this press conference yesterday and listening to those comments, number one, Joe Judge is full of crap. So let's just get that out of the way. I'm not buying for a minute, and nobody is either. It's not like it's like, breaking news. But I'm not going to sit by that, all these guys are calling him. And, this just seems like something that he just went completely off course on. Like he was trying to answer the question, and I think he just kind of, his ass got a little tight, and then all of a sudden he just started rambling on about nothing. And then, rambling on about how, I know you guys think I'm stupid, but all these people want to play for me. Well, who are those people? Now, listen, in a weird way, he's not wrong, because James Bradbury, Adoree Jackson, Leonard Williams, all these guys signed big contracts. So I think that played a role in it. So I'm not going to disagree with him to an extent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, of course, money talks. And, I know the guys are going to get paid the big money and all that stuff. But if I'm a player and I'm trying to figure out where I want to go play next, I think the head coach does play a role in that.
No, it definitely does. And it's not like Joe Judge is a tenured guy like a Pete Carroll or an Andy Reid or a Bruce Arians or someone like that, where it's like, okay, you know what? He's been here a couple of years, but he has tenure other places. So we'll fire the GM, and we know we have a good coach. You still have no idea what you have in Joe Judge. Yeah, last year he showed a spark, like, okay, he could potentially be good. This year, completely off the rails, and this Giants team is a shell of what we saw last year.
Yeah, and the thing is, and that's what we talked about last week too, because that's why they've been so bad. That's why it looks 10 times worse for the Giants, because Gettleman went on a freaking spending spree. And this is what you're putting out in the field. A team with these names should not be putting up 150 yards of total offense.
Right.
The minute that Mike Glennon crapped the bed, you should have been looking at practice squads. I don't know, maybe Josh Johnson, who actually played pretty well for the Ravens when he got taken from the Jets practice squad. I mean, I'm just throwing a name out at random, but there are other guys you could have gone after. There are other guys that were out there that you could have gone after, and you went after freaking Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
Now, the Daniel Jones injury is unfortunate, but at the end of the day, too, though, Daniel Jones, I don't even know if he would have made you any better. I have no idea. I mean, neck injuries are a pretty big deal. But this is a team that gave $60 million to Leonard Williams. They gave another $25 million to Adoree Jackson. They gave James Bradbury a big contract. They gave Logan Ryan a 3-year extension. They gave Kenny Golladay $72 million. They gave Nate Solder big money. I mean, like, I don't know I don't know what else to say, really.
No, this is exactly what we saw from the Jets a few years ago when they thought, oh, okay, we'll sign all these guys. We'll sign Buster Screen. We'll sign Le'Veon Bell. We'll sign Tremaine Johnson. We'll sign all these guys, and they'll be the Band-Aid for our team. No, that was not the problem. The problem was you made shitty signings. Granted, yeah, I love the Le'Veon Bell signing and the Tremaine Johnson signing. I love those signings. But in hindsight, yeah, they were shitty signings, and they wasted it. They brought our franchise down a few years, and we literally had to start from the beginning, like we are now with Joe Douglas, and that's what the Giants need to do. These signings that they made were just flat out terrible. They really were.
But here's the thing: you have a delusional head coach who really believes that he's making progress when we all know different.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the last thing you really need right now. If you're the Giants, you do not need a delusional head coach trying to convince this fan base, trying to convince the beat writers that this team is making progress. It was like, remember how the Jets last year would always get their ass kicked under Adam Gase?
Mm-hmm.
And Adam Gase would do the same thing every week. He would say, yeah, we had a really great practice week. I don't know what happened and everything. You're kind of seeing the same shit with Joe Judge. You're seeing him deflect when he should really be taking his team to task and saying, we played like shit, and that's on me. And I don't know if it's the Belichickian, right. I don't know if it's the Belichickian way of doing things or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if people are trying to, I don't know why coaches under the Bill Belichick tree just insist on being Bill Belichick when they need to get their own personality, their own standards. But you're just constantly seeing the garbage that comes out when these guys go off on their own. And right now, while he's a hot coaching candidate for next year, I see the same thing happen to Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was a terrible head coach in Denver. He was the one who drafted Tim Tebow in the first round. So the answer to the question is, what took a bigger hit yesterday? I think both. Because it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of scenario. Because if you bring Judge back for a third season, you've alienated the fan base and you've alienated any potentially good general manager candidate that would want to sit down and talk to you about the team, because GM candidates will see that roster and say, I know it's a lot of money, but there's good players on this roster.
Yeah.
We just need maybe they just need a kick in the ass or something like that. I don't believe that players go from good to bad that quickly. When the Giants last year had the same exact roster, with the exception of the guys they added this year, they were competing for a playoff spot, even though they were 6-10.
Yeah, and you figured with the new signings they brought in, especially on defense, you add a guy like Adoree Jackson to what we already know that Logan Ryan had a good year and James Bradbury blew everyone off the table last year. You add a guy like Adoree Jackson, you figure, okay, this team is going to take a step up, and they didn't. They took a step backwards. Everyone digressed. And granted, yeah, I believe the same thing. I believe the same thing like you just said, that I don't think within a year.
Like James Bradbury last year was a shutdown corner.
Yeah.
It's the same defense. Patrick Graham is the same defensive coordinator. It's the same schemes. Why are you having so much trouble covering receivers? Why is Logan Ryan regressing so bad? Okay? These are the things. It's not that hard. Adoree Jackson, you just have to cover the guy on the outside. So why are we having a problem? Why can't Leonard Williams get to the quarterback like he did last year when he had 11.5 sacks?
Exactly.
These are the things I'm curious about. And that's where I question Joe Judge and how he thinks that everybody wants to play for him. Okay? It reminds me of this. It's like, I know you're a Trumper, and rarely do I get political on this show, but it's no different than like Donald Trump saying, yeah, everybody wants to hang out with me because I'm the greatest. That's that kind of attitude, but that's not an attitude that's going to fly in New York if you only win 4 games.
Yeah.
When your team is putting out 151 yards of total offense, it's not going to fly. Now, if Judge does return, there's that part. If Judge doesn't come back, and you fire Judge and you get the GM you want, that guy's going to have to go through an entire year of just dead weight contracts. They're not going to be able to rebuild the team the way they want, at least not for a year. Yeah, you got the 2 first-round picks, and to be very honest, I think one of those first-round picks has to be Daniel Jones's replacement. Because even if Daniel Jones returns next year, he's still going to have the issues with the neck, and that's always going to be a major red flag. And this is not really a great quarterback class. I don't even know who the best quarterback prospect is in this draft. I've heard it was Matt Corral one week. Then I heard it was Malik Willis from Liberty for crying out loud. A quarterback from Liberty may be in the first round, when does that ever happen?
I know we're getting into the draft a little early, but
who's the quarterback from Pitt?
Kenny Pickett. That's my guy right there.
Okay.
I think he's the best quarterback in this draft class.
So, but again, there isn't that surefire can't miss guy, but I don't think the Giants can afford to swing and miss on it.
No, they definitely can't. Especially when the past few years, you've been burned in draft picks. 2020, you drafted Andrew Thomas. He stinks. Dexter Lawrence really hasn't. He's okay, but he hasn't panned out to what they thought. Well,
Thomas has actually been better this year. Last year he was garbage, but this year he's actually been better. But,
and then Saquon a few years ago.
The Giants traded down to get a first-round pick so the Bears can draft Justin Fields. Fine. But they used that pick on Kadarius Toney. I probably would have stayed where I was. I don't think I would have. I would have probably taken a guy like Micah Parsons.
In reality.
And listen, in hindsight, yeah, because he's a rookie rookie of the year, most likely on defense. But he's an all-around good player for your defense. And imagine how valuable he is with the fact that Blake Martinez went out for the season.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Micah Parsons would have been a nice fit. But, I mean, personally, I think they should have not traded back, and they should have drafted. I mean, they had wide receiver in their minds from the get-go because it came out that they wanted Devonta Smith, and when the Eagles traded up in front of him to get them, they're like, well, fuck it. We want a wide receiver, so let's trade back, and that's what they did. When in reality, they shouldn't – not even Micah Parsons. They should have drafted Rashawn Slater. With how bad Andrew Thomas had it as a rookie year, with a question mark at Nate Solder, and the rest of your O-line being just Swiss cheese – Rashawn Slater is proving he's one of the best offensive tackles, not only in the draft, in this last year's draft, but in the NFL in general. Rashawn Slater is a beast for the Chargers right now.
The thing is, at this point, I don't know if the Maras can sell the fan base on third year of Joe Judge. However, again, you're firing a guy after 2 years. It might be tough for you to find a replacement very quickly. It might be difficult. It's not going to be as easy as you think it is. Because people are going to see that every 2 years you fire a coach. You're not giving them the time to implement what they want to do. And on top of that, you're burdened with bad contracts. So a new GM is going to come in and be like, I don't know where I can cut here. I know I can cut Sterling Shepard probably, save $12 million. I think they can cut James Bradbury if they want to. I think they save money off that. But they also have some contracts that have dead cap hits. So is it really worth it? You must let these guys play out their contracts and let them all be free agents.
Yeah.
But it is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you keep Judge, you're going to have a hard time selling the fan base on it. And you're going to have a hard time convincing an outside general manager to come to the team. If you don't keep Judge, then you have a new GM who is not going to be able to really implement their plan for at least a year because they have all these bad contracts. It was like when Douglas took the job and he had to cut guys, he had to eat salary. He didn't have a choice. But he knew they weren't the right fits for the team, so he got rid of them.
No, you're right.
You do the same thing. You're just going to be cutting guys and just eating, It was like when the Eagles decided to trade Carson Wentz. They had enough of Carson Wentz, and they didn't care about the dead cap hit. They just want to get him off the team. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's probably one of the best decisions they've ever made as a franchise. They're in the playoffs. They made the playoffs. I mean, they made the playoffs with Jalen Hurts. They have their quarterback. You don't need to worry about the quarterback now for a while. Getting on to number 2, we'll talk about the Jets.
Before we get in, we have a comment. Eric Essinger got an out-of-the-box idea on how the NFL should be reffed.
Let's hear it.
Well, yeah, let us know. Yeah, Eric, if you're still watching, please comment it what it is, and it will be featured here, right? Like how it is right now.
No refs?
No refs. That would be fun. Let anyone do what they want.
All right, so let's get on to the Jets. So, okay.
We look good.
Basically, the question on the table is, have the Jets players officially bought in on Robert Saleh's system?
I think so.
I thought Zach Wilson completely outplayed Tom Brady yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Zach Wilson is not the reason why they lost the game. They lost the game because the defense couldn't stop Tom Brady for 93 yards and gave up a touchdown.
Oh, that, and it was a terrible play call on 4th and 2.
It was a terrible play call, but not that bad. It's not as bad as you think it is. I think that this is where I'm going to disagree. Well, the quarterback sneak is not a bad call. However, Saleh, if he sees that there's some uncertainty, he's got to call a freaking timeout again, even if he has to waste 2 timeouts. Maybe he didn't have a timeout left. I don't know. Get that ball to Berrios. I would have been perfectly fine with that, and they would have won the game.
I thought they should have put it in Elijah Walter's hands. He was pounding the ball up and down the field yesterday.
But the way that and Samini had a pretty cool thing on his Instagram page. He had an aerial view of the play of the Zach Wilson quarterback sneak. He said that basically Braxton Berrios is running from right to left. He said a lot of the Bucs were more lined up on the right side of the line, meaning if you had handed it to Braxton Berrios, he would have got a first down.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody really on the left side that would have tackled, that would have made it to him in 2 yards. He would have got at least 6 yards on that play. Fine. What's done is done. It was a crappy play call. The Jets lost. Honestly, I think if the Jets would have won, people still would have been – Jet fans would have still been complaining because then they would have lost their draft stock or something like that. They'd be pissed off that they officially wouldn't get Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, that being said, this team played really good yesterday. And you can't dismiss that. The only thing I would say, Klim, is that I wish this would have happened weeks ago.
Yes.
But that 2021 draft class has potential to be incredibly special. Zach has now gone 4 games without a turnover. He is very comfortable with the way he's handling the offense. And here's the sad part. Can you imagine right now if they had Corey Davis and Elijah Moore? They would have probably fucking tore up the Buccaneers yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
They put up that amount of points with Denzel Mims sitting on the bench, mind you. Kenny Yeboah, Braxton Berrios, Keelan Cole, and DJ Montgomery, and Daniel Brown.
And Jeff Smith.
Who dropped a freaking first down.
Oh, that was so bad.
Keelan Cole dropped the pass, too. Zach Wilson played really well in this game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Zach's going to be a superstar. Yeah, Jets, hit it on the head. It's too early to tell. We don't know that yet. But over the past few weeks, you have seen this kid get more and more comfortable, not only with the offense, but with the weapons around him.
Mm-hmm.
That is a scary situation for teams next year.
Oh, no, it definitely is. Like and I've been saying this to my friends who are Jet fans, that not only Zach Wilson, but our rookies in general have gotten better and better and better each and every week. And that's what we wanted to see. Zach Wilson looks like a stud these past few weeks.
But you know what the sad part is, man? Again, freaking injuries just totally killed them. Yeah. Fant goes down with a major injury, and Carter gets a concussion, and he was out for the game. They can't survive. They just, I think next week, Sunday, they're just going to get their asses kicked by Buffalo. I just don't see them really playing too hard against Buffalo. I know they flexed that game out to a 425 game, but I think they're going to get their asses kicked by Buffalo. I hope not. I hope they finish strong, but there was so much to like about that game. And there was so much Ulbrich was calling. Brady was completely frustrated with the Jets defense.
Oh, yeah.
The Jets defense was putting good pressure on him. They had really good coverage. Eccles looks like he could be an up-and-coming player, by the way. And they were getting pressure. Michael Carter II gets a sack. The Buccaneers just looked like they had a really tough time getting like a really fluid offense going until, of course, they scored touchdowns in garbage time and everything. But you're finally seeing a path, which we've never seen before as Jets fans. And that's why you can't let a guy like Joe Douglas go. He knows what he's doing. Robert Saleh, I think, knows what he's doing. Is he making rookie mistakes as a head coach? Yes. Do I think he needs to kind of be a little bit more assertive? It's your final call. You decide what play you want to go with? Yes. But there is a shitload of talent on this team. They have absolutely bought into this system. Now, can you imagine these guys next year with a full year under their belt in Saleh's scheme?
It could be very scary because, like you said, like we mentioned, even the free agent guys, even a guy like C.J. Mosley, Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis before he got injured, all these guys were buying into the system. They looked good, and C.J. Mosley continues to play good. A guy like Quincy Williams, who came on in week 5, he's bought into the system. He looks good. Sheldon Rankins, his first year, he looks good. Like it's
like Elijah Riley. Like, I don't know where Douglas keeps finding these guys. Jason Pinnock moves to safety. He's been much, much better at safety than he was at corner. Now you got to work on getting better linebackers to pair around Mosley, and you need another pass rusher. You have Bryce Huff, you have Carl Lawson will be back next year, but you need to get another pass rusher.
Yeah.
And this was a team that had a lot of guys just coming off the COVID list.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with the way they played. I really was. I thought Zach handled himself well. I love the way he was slinging the ball. And again, 4 games now in a row without a pick.
Which is good. That's a huge improvement, especially for Zach Wilson, because prior to the injury, we saw him having some interception problems, some short accuracy problems. And granted, there are still some mistakes he makes, but he's gotten better.
But you know what the crazy thing is, Clem? 4 of those he has 11 interceptions on the season. 4 of those interceptions came in one game against the Patriots.
Yeah.
He's rushed for 4 touchdowns this year. He's thrown for, I think, 8 touchdowns. 8 or 9. I mean, listen, it's not a rookie of the year season by any stretch of the imagination. But Jet fans who didn't want this guy, who wanted to run his ass out of town, I mean, you got to like the progress. You want to get on Saleh for the play call yesterday? Fine. That's fine. Like, you're right. LaFleur's got to do a better job communicating that to Zach Wilson. He's got to say, just give it to Berrios. And if he doesn't do it, then Saleh's got to step in and say, just give it to Berrios. Even if you got to waste it, I don't know if they had another timeout to waste, I would have burned another timeout to make sure that fucking Zach Wilson knows exactly what we're doing. But this draft class has potential to be very, very special.
No, you're absolutely right. And
every pick has been good.
I was going to say, we shouldn't even be, praising the guys like Zach Wilson, the AVTs, and the Elijah Moores. Who we should be really praising is Michael Carter. Michael Carter has been a stud in getting better each and every week since he's been a starting running back for us. Guys like Brandon Eccles and Michael Carter have looked amazing. I wouldn't say amazing, but they've looked very good in their positions and their roles.
Pinnock is permanently moved to safety now.
Pinnock looks good. When before Nasruddin got injured, he was playing decent.
So they know what they have to fix next year, but I was really impressed with how they hung with the Buccaneers last night. Nothing you could do. And the thing is, the Jets have to know better. You have to know not to give Tom Brady any time. You got to know.
We should have won that game. I'm mad we won. I mean, I'm mad we lost, but very happy with what I saw on the field.
I was very impressed with the product, what was on the field. I thought they played a great game. I was very pleased, and it sucks that they didn't win, and I get it. And Jet fans can be mad and overly criticize all you want, but if you don't see the foundation being laid out right now for this team, I just don't think there's any hope for those Jet fans. Then that ship has pretty much sailed at this point. All right, number 3. The other part to that game was the meltdown scene around the world as Antonio Brown all of a sudden just walked out of MetLife Stadium shirtless, said goodbye to all the fans and everything, and went home. Didn't go on the charter plane with the team. And Arians basically after the game said that he was no longer a member of the team. The various reports say that Antonio Brown refused to go back into a game when Arians told him to. And then after the second time, Arians told him to get off the field then and go back to the locker room. And that's when he went crazy. He was trying to be restrained by Mike Evans and O.J. Howard. And then that's when he took off his shoulder pads, threw them on the ground, took his shirt off, threw it on the ground, and just ran around the end zone and just waved to the fans and just took off. And that was basically his swan song. So the question becomes, Klim, while this is an embarrassing look for the organization, Bruce Arians, and Tom Brady, who backed him, how much did Brown's mental health play a role in this incident?
I don't know really, because of the fact that he was on the team last year. He was on the team for most of this year, and we never heard any problems. You know, he was having a good season, wasn't having a bad season. And as much as I don't like Tom Brady, when a guy like Tom Brady advocates for you to be on this team, Tom Brady should be well knowing of what kind of person Antonio Brown is. And we didn't hear any problems from him all year, so we figured he didn't have any problems. And I don't think the mental health thing plays into this. I think this is something.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you
something else.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you a scenario.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your head.
Okay.
Imagine you're in a store.
Okay.
Okay. And imagine that there is a guy is being told to leave the store because he's refusing to do something. And in the end, the guy takes his shirt off, screams loud and yells at everybody, and runs out of the store topless. What's the first reaction that will come to your head?
But this guy's crazy.
The defense rests.
All right, fair point.
You want to cut and paste something for tomorrow's show? That part you just did. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I guess to that point, yeah.
Okay.
Something.
Now, I will not pin this just on mental health.
Yeah.
I will pin this on who it is at the same time. And I'm going to do that because, number one, I can. And number two, because I don't know, not to say why not, but it's like his track record tells me that this is just another link in the chain. The problem I have with Antonio Brown is that he had just about a month ago gotten in trouble for using a fake vaccination card. Okay.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he did that.
And Bruce Arians went to bat for him, which I thought was a huge mistake by Bruce Arians. But we already know who's pulling the strings on the Buccaneers roster. It's Tom Brady. And Tom Brady loves him. Tom Brady loves having him on the team because he's Antonio Brown. Okay? And I respect the shit out of Tom Brady. I really do. But we know he's pulling the strings on the team. When you do that, you reap what you sow at the end of the day. And I think about it like this. Antonio Brown has a ton of talent. No one doubts that. And anybody who's ever owned a fantasy football team will tell you that Antonio Brown was a top 10 pick and an elite receiver in Pittsburgh. Not so, he didn't even play for the Raiders, but something always happens with him. And he gets away with it based on the talent and nothing else. The problem with having a guy like Antonio Brown in your roster is you will take the talent any day of the week, but it's a powder keg waiting to go off. And something is going to set him off eventually. It may not be week 1. It may not be week 4. It may not be week 8. But it could be week 17 when the team is fighting for a playoff spot and they really need him. And he's going to do something that's going to set people off because he's Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, do I think mental health plays a role in it? I do. But not the only. It's a cop-out if you automatically pivot to that. Antonio Brown has had plenty of opportunities to get help for himself and everything. He needs professional help. And the problem is you most likely have inadvertently burned your career for good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because we've seen this movie before. The 7:30 show is not different from the 9:30 show. And I'm talking about players like Terrell Owens. I'm talking about players like Chad Ochocinco. I'm talking about players, you don't know him, but I do, from the 90s. Jeff George is a guy that comes up a lot. These are players that have insane amounts of talent. But coaches after a while, get tired of their shit. And they don't want to deal with them anymore. They don't. They don't want anything to do with them. And then what happens is these guys, like homeless people begging for money in the streets, are out there campaigning for a team to pick them up because they're ready to go. But nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. And nobody wants them because they do this. It's like, you ever see the scales of justice?
Yeah.
Okay? And you put the things up, and one goes up and the other goes down, and the one that goes up, I think, is the one that wins, or I think. I don't know. But think about it like this. You're a GM of a team. You need a wide receiver in the worst way. And you're like, holy shit, Antonio Brown is available. Maybe we could use him. And you'll read beat writers, because all the general managers read the beat writers and all. They read all the columns and all that stuff about the team. And the columnists are basically saying, the Jets should really make a call to Antonio Brown. And, I understand he's got baggage. You're the general manager of the team, and you're sitting there right now and you're saying, you know what? This guy's got a ton of talent, and we already know that. But man, I can't escape the fact that this guy quit on his team mid-game.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the equivalent of saying, man, I know you're really qualified and for this job, and I really want it, your qualifications are through the roof. I know you'll do a good job, but man, I can't get it out of my head that you robbed that bank.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to make the same argument that I made for Colin Kaepernick as to why he wasn't why no team signed him. It's no one wants the baggage of a player when maybe I might not find someone just as good. I always said a guy like Colin Kaepernick should have been a backup on some team in the NFL, but no team wanted to sign him because of the baggage he brought, especially to be a backup in the NFL. Same thing with Antonio Brown. I think it's much easier to find a good wide receiver in the NFL in the free agency than it is a good running back. But a guy like Antonio Brown, you don't want to sign him with all this baggage that he has with him. It's not worth it.
You're right.
In the end, it's not worth it.
But here's what I'm going to say too. Okay, the problem I'm having is that Antonio Brown is going to be the type of receiver that takes a job away from a young guy who works his ass off in the summertime, works his ass off during the year, hits the weight room, runs routes with a trainer or a coach or whatever. And then Antonio Brown's going to fucking waltz in out of nowhere and say, okay, I'm going to take this kid's job because I'm Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot keep making excuses for these guys simply because they go off the deep end once in a while. Can't do it. Especially in this league. Because everybody's pivoting to that argument.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it must have CTE because, he just literally almost stripped down to his underwear and ran off into the... Maybe not. Maybe that's just Antonio Brown. I mean, can you imagine, hey, Klim, have you ever told your boss, let's say your boss, you drive an ambulance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your boss says, Klim, I need you. God, I'm like laughing because I'm envisioning you doing this, but I can't, but I'm going to just go with it anyway. Klim, I need you to go to this person's house and I need you to pick up this lady. I need you to bring her to here. And you go like this. Yeah, no. And the guy goes, I really need you to do it. And you go, yeah, I'm not doing it. And then the guy goes, okay, well then you're fired. And then all of a sudden, what do? Like you basically ghost ride the van off a cliff and just
Look, if that's ever the case, I always say the day I quit a job anywhere, I'm making a big scene. So I mean, if that's
you're gonna pull a fucking Jerry Maguire.
I was gonna say if that's Antonio Brown's way of saying, hey, I'm fired, I'm going out in my own way, the way I want to go out, I'm gonna make a scene. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that just guys just think differently,
But again, it's inexcusable to do that to a team, especially a team that's had your back.
Yeah.
Okay. Bruce Arians could have kicked him off the team after the fake Vax card thing, and he didn't. Because I'm sure Tom Brady stepped in and said, no, you can't get rid of him. He's a good guy. He means well and everything.
Yeah, Tom Brady was the biggest advocate for Antonio Brown. He had always nothing but nice things to say about Antonio Brown.
And then Antonio Brown pays Bruce Arians and Tom Brady back by basically stripping off his gear, running around the end zone of MetLife Stadium, throwing stuff to the fans and kissing the fans goodbye.
Because we were watching the game yesterday, I'm like, who the hell? I can't believe. I was like, wow, they finally got someone on TV that's streaking on the field.
That was the other thing. Later, if you read Samini's article about the incident, the MetLife security didn't know who he was. They just saw a guy standing outside like topless, waiting for an Uber. They almost had to detain him. They didn't know who he was.
And it's not like he was having an awful year. He probably would have ended the year with close to, if not a 700-yard season.
Even after all the shit from last year with the sexual assault allegations and all this stuff, the Buccaneers still picked his ass up, and he still won a freaking Super Bowl with them. I don't understand how you basically flip off the team that pays your salary like that. So immediately everybody pivots to, well, he's mental. He's crazy. Just like what I just presented you earlier with a comparison. And I said, because if you ask that question to 100 people, 100 people are going to say he's crazy. Okay? 100 people are going to sit there and say he's crazy. Have you ever been somewhere and somebody was on their cell phone yelling at the other person on the phone?
Yes.
And what's the first thing that came to your head when you said that? Besides the fact that the person's a tool because he just needs attention. But what is the first thing that came to your head?
This guy's a nutcase.
Again, the defense Russ. Because that's the first thing we pivot to every time. We pivot to them being crazy immediately. And I'm not saying he hasn't gotten his bell rung a few times, from hard hits and all that stuff. But it's also been Antonio Brown being Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
When he went to the Raiders, he tried to pretend up and down that he was so happy to be there. He was so glad to be out of Pittsburgh and everything, right? Pittsburgh took 50 cents on the dollar just to get him off the team. And then what happened? Remember that like cryotherapy shit that he did with his foot? And his foot got all frozen or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Right? And the Raiders had no idea. And the Raiders were like, we never approved this. And what did he do? He basically turned around and said, okay, screw you. I'm leaving. I want out.
Well, that's what he kind of did here in a little bit, because apparently he tried to claim he had an ankle injury, and according to that's why he didn't want to go back in. But according to Bruce Arians, he never was known or knew that he had an ankle injury or not. So if that's doing the same shit here, then like he did in the Raiders.
But the thing is teams are veering away from these guys. Terrell Owens did the same shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terrell Owens was always, remember, he badmouthed Donovan McNabb up and down for years. Even badmouthed him after he left. After he left Philadelphia, badmouthed him up and down. Then he was, kissing Tony Romo's ass in Dallas, crying during the press conference and everything. People just got sick of his shit. They got tired of him. And then what happened? And then remember the infamous day that he was in his driveway doing sit-ups?
Oh, classic.
Trying to like get teams to sign him. Remember when the Jets needed receivers and he was begging the Jets to sign him because he wanted to come back to play football and the Jets said no?
Yep.
Nobody wants to deal with the shit. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco is another perfect example. They got tired of him. The Hall of Fame jacket. The Ocho Cinco patch on the back of his jersey. And you don't remember Jeff George, but I do. I use those three examples because those are the first ones that come to my head. Jeff George was a quarterback, great quarterback in college. I forgot what school he went to, though. He got drafted number 1 overall, refused to play for that team. So they traded him I think they traded him to Indianapolis. I think he got drafted by Denver. He got drafted by somebody. I don't remember who it was. Went to Indianapolis, flamed out there, went to Atlanta. He was really good in Atlanta in the run and shoot. But he was always pissing people off. He was caught on video in an argument with his coach during a Monday Night Football game. Then he went to Oakland, same shit. And it got to the point where it was like a homeless guy begging for change. He was literally trying to get teams to sign him, and nobody wanted to deal with him. He had a cannon for an arm, Klim. And nobody wanted to deal with the bullshit. And this is just another link in the chain right here for Antonio Brown.
I don't know what it is about wide receivers, especially. I feel like wide receivers are just different. Like you mentioned, Antonio Brown, Ocho Cinco, T.O.
Because they're arrogant. Le'Veon Bell's another guy. I love Le'Veon Bell on the Jets. Don't get me wrong. I will never say that the Jets should never have signed him. I love that guy. But you see why teams sour on him. He's too cocky. He's too arrogant. It's never his fault. And I respect T.O. I respect what Chad Johnson did in the years with Cincinnati and everything like that. But they burn their own careers.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just get so wrapped up into themselves. It's not about the team. It's about them. And you know who's going to be the next guy? Jamal Adams. Mark my fucking words. It's going to be him all the way. Because when Seattle goes through that rebuild starting next year, and most likely Russell Wilson not being on the team anymore, maybe even Pete Carroll not coaching the team next year, Jamal Adams is going to be sitting there all by himself. And I guarantee you he's going to throw a massive temper tantrum. And he's going to demand a trade out of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a year. Guaranteed. And if we're still doing this show a year from now, I guarantee you we're going to come back to that. He did it with the Jets. He did the shit with the Seattle holding out. I'm telling you. Once a prima donna, always a prima donna. And that's that. But at the end of the day, Antonio Brown embarrassed himself. Maybe, I'm sure maybe his mental health issues had something to do with it. We don't know. The one thing I say is maybe he has bipolar disorder. Go going from, like I said, here or here, but never like here. But that was, again, am I surprised? Not really. I mean, it was bizarre to say the least, but we immediately pivot to them being crazy, And those are the people that have watched the movie Concussion like 100 times, and they sit there and they say, "Yep, it's CTE. It's got to be CTE." Okay, well, we won't know that until, God forbid, he's dead, and they're doing, an autopsy on him. But you're telling me that in the span of how many weeks, he went from this cool as a cucumber, Tom Brady had him under control and everything, to that?
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's both ego of the player, and I think it has a minor issue with mental health. But I wouldn't automatically pivot to mental health. Although, like I said before, whenever you see something that you've rarely seen before, the first thing we all say is,
crazy.
That dude's crazy. That chick is crazy. I know I have. I'm perfectly guilty of it. I've seen some crazy assholes in my industry. I've seen some crazy people that have stayed at my hotels. I mean, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs isn't exactly. It's crazy. All right, number 4. After winning 7 in a row, the Miami Dolphins have come crashing back to earth, getting crushed by the Titans 34-3 in a crucial playoff game. Tua struggled all day. The defense was shredded by Ryan Tannehill and Dante Foreman. The Dolphins will most likely be watching the playoffs from home for a 5th straight season. So, Klim, in your opinion, are the Miami Dolphins one of the most disappointing franchises of all time?
In the NFL or just sports in general?
Does it matter?
They're up there. They're very close, I would say. I would say, when was the last time they won a Super Bowl? 72? Was that it?
73.
73.
Won back-to-back Super Bowls.
Okay, so
then I'm going to give you some stats that are going to blow your fucking mind.
I mean, no, you know what? No, I'm going to say no, just because the Jets have been way more disappointing than the Dolphins.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it?
I'm going to stick to that.
Okay.
Only because of the slight fact that that 72 Dolphins team is considered one of the greatest teams of all time. That's it.
No.
That's it. That's the only it's the sole reason why the Dolphins are not as miserable as the Jets.
Now I'm going to tell you why they are hands down one of the most disappointing franchises of all time. Completely wasted Dan Marino for so many years. Okay. The good. They won back-to-back Super Bowls in 72 and 73. Okay. That is 49 years ago, for the record. Now, since 2004, Miami has only Miami has only had 4 winning seasons. All other seasons have been either 8-8 or with a losing record. And guess what their record is this year?
8-8.
Pretty much.
Well, I was going to say they can't be 8-8 now, but
no, they have one more game. They got to play the Patriots next week. So maybe they go 8-9, right? Actually, let me make sure if that's right. They have not made it past the wild card game in any playoff appearance since 2000. They last made the postseason in 2016, and guess who the head coach was?
Adam Gase.
Adam Gase. They should be kissing Gase's ass for getting to the playoffs. They have not made it to the AFC Championship game since 1992. Meanwhile, the Jets have made it in 2009, 2010, and 99.
Fair.
And since the 2002 season, the Miami Dolphins have only made the playoffs twice.
That's pretty miserable.
Here's my take on the Miami Dolphins. Every year they're always hyped up, and every year they are a letdown. They are the AFC's version of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are always a team that are completely overhyped when the season starts. And while the Dallas Cowboys this year are having a very good season, more times than not, they suck. They either play down to their competition, they either stumble into the postseason, or they get completely eliminated, and that's it. The Miami Dolphins are no different. The reason why I had a hard time getting on the Dolphin bandwagon for 7 games while everyone else was is because they didn't beat, in my opinion, very good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Beating the Jets twice, beating the Giants without Daniel Jones, with Mike Glennon. They beat the Falcons, I think, in 1 game. I can't remember the other teams they beat. I know they beat the Ravens. The Ravens is a good win. I'll give them the Ravens game. That was a game they dominated from start to finish. None of those teams outside of the Ravens were considered legitimately good competition. And these last 2 games were going to tell me a totally different story about the Miami Dolphins. And that was, are they there to compete, or is it just going to be another bullshit season? And they basically gave me another bullshit season because they got their asses kicked all over the field by the Titans. And now they're going into a game next Sunday against the Patriots. Patriots have plenty to play for. They could still win the division. If the Jets beat the Bills and the Patriots beat the Dolphins, the Patriots are going to win the division. And the thing is that Brian Flores has been the coach of this team now. Is this his 3rd year or 4th year? I don't really remember.
I want to say 3rd year.
Okay. And they still can't get to the playoffs. And the other part of it, too, is, Clem, I don't think they love Tua the way we think so.
His 3rd year.
3rd year?
Yeah, 3rd year.
I'm saying, like, by 3rd year, he went 5-11 his first year. He went 10-6 last year. Okay? And he had a chance to get the team into the playoffs last year in a win-in game against Buffalo, and they got destroyed by Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And then this year they're 8-8. They are the textbook definition of mediocrity. And they have wasted plenty of good players over the years. If you go to Marino, if you go to Jason Taylor, name them.
Ricky Williams.
Who else?
Dante Culpepper.
One guy who was actually a decent quarterback for them, I think, was Fiedler.
Oh, yeah, I remember him a little bit.
Quarterback for them.
Brandon Marshall.
But I have not seen every year the Dolphins, every year they go in with all this fanfare. Oh, Brian Flores is doing a great job. Brian Flores is doing, he's going to get them to the next level. Still hasn't done it in 3 years. If they haven't made the playoffs now under Flores, they're never going to make it.
I will say, though, because when Brian Flores took this team over, it was an absolute shit show. The team was in shambles, and they were.
No, that's 3 years ago.
That was going to be my point. I was going to say, but by year 3 in minimum, you should be ready for the playoffs. Granted, yeah, the Patriots being good again did not help them, but still, you should be better. You have had more than enough time to get this team up to snuff. And granted, yeah, they got some good pieces. Jalen Waddle looks fantastic. Mike Gesicki is a great tight end. They have a decent offensive line. They have some pieces here, but they're not all there. They're not all there yet.
But you know what bothers you, though, about the Miami Dolphins, Clem? You had Ryan Tannehill on your team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not know how to scheme for him? You don't have Derrick Henry to worry about. I'm not saying Deontay Foreman's a bad back. Far from it. He's not Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So what am I missing here? Why does this team suck?
Yeah, this Miami team should have been able to beat them. This Miami team definitely had the better talent than what the Titans were throwing out to you.
But it's ridiculous, Clem. Every year they come in with all this hoopla, all this fanfare. Oh, Tua's going to be great. And I think Tua's got a bit of a raw deal in Miami because outside of Jalen Waddle, they really haven't provided him with a ton of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Parker is overrated. Preston Williams is not that great. Myles Gaskin's had a terrible season for them. The only player they have is Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. That's it. No one else.
Yeah.
Good defense, though.
Oh,
and the other key part of the Dolphins, they've completely bombed on their draft picks. They've bombed on way too many draft picks. Last year, they drafted who did they draft last year?
Austin Jackson, the lineman from USC.
Yeah. I think he's starting. I have no idea.
He's a left guard now.
But that's not what you drafted him for. You drafted him to be a tackle.
Yeah.
Like here. This year they drafted Jalen Phillips.
It's okay.
I mean, he's having a good season. 8.5 sacks in his rookie season. That's solid.
Not bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
For a rookie, that's solid. But again, it's just weird that they still can't put this together. Another team that's like that too, Klim, the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers piss me off so much because they waste talent. They waste talent on that team. That is a team that has a top-notch quarterback. You have one of the top receivers in the game in Keenan Allen. I don't think he's an elite receiver, but he's definitely top 10. You have Austin Eckler, one of the top pass-catching backs in the league. Mike Williams having a great season. You have a defense headlined by Joey Bosa. And you still can't win that division. You're still scratching and clawing to get that wild card spot. I mean, am I missing something here?
No, you're not. You're definitely not. I mean, look, the Chargers are always going to be running into the Chiefs. Granted, yeah. But still, this team is just as good, if not better, than what the Chiefs are putting in. Because like you said, you have a top 5. I think he's proven it this year. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler, when he's healthy, is a top 5 running back in the NFL. You have a great wide receiver combination of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. You have a good offensive line with guys like Schofield, Lindsley, and Rashawn Slater. Then you look at the defense. Joey Bosa is a freaking stud. Asante Samuel Jr., he's good.
But like
Derwin James, solid.
You have the talent. And everybody was calling Brandon Staley, coach of the year at the beginning of the season. And they lost to the Texans.
Yeah, you should not be losing to the Texans.
They got torched by the Texans. By Davis Mills and the Texans, they got torched. And that was without Brandon Cooks in the lineup. I can't get behind it. Every time I see some ESPN analyst or some other football analyst get behind these teams, I'm like, no, they're overrated. But you're going to tell me the Jets are a dumpster fire? Why? Because the Jets don't go 8-8 every year? The one thing you never want to be in the NFL is mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
You never want to be that 8-8 like at the Mendoza line. You either want to be really bad or really good. You don't want to be in the middle. Because you'll always think you're that one player away. And you're not. Like I was reading something the other day that, Roethlisberger is going to probably retire after this year.
Mm-hmm.
So now, instead of what I said, and that the Steelers just have to blow it up, they need to get rid of Tomlin, they need to start over and just rebuild this team. They've been scratching and clawing for far too long, and it's gotten them nowhere. They're a little bit better than 500. It doesn't blow me away. And Tomlin, I think, has run his course in Pittsburgh. But we know the Steelers don't change coaches very often, so who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is that you have to know when it's time to turn the page. So when Roethlisberger retired, or was going to retire, people started writing articles about how, well, the Steelers should really go out and get Matt Ryan. Why would you do that? Why would you go out and get Matt Ryan, who's not even a mobile quarterback anymore? He's only a few years younger than Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Are you really that close to a Super Bowl? Do you really think that Matt Ryan is going to do wonders for your team? Especially when you play in a very tough division with now the new juggernaut of the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals. I just think some of it doesn't make any sense. And you want to know how I know the Dolphins aren't really big on Tua? Because I know that the minute that freaking Deshaun Watson becomes available or Russell Wilson becomes available, they will be the first team online trying to make a deal.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they've always been that franchise that thinks they are one player away from a Super Bowl, and they're not even close. They can't even win their own division. They're the third place team in their division. And every year they do the same thing. We're going to add a bunch of free agents, we're going to draft players, and we're going to hope it sticks.
Yep.
And Flores I'm sorry, he's not that great of a coach. He's had plenty of time. I'm not saying you fire him after a third year, but by the fourth year, if he cannot get this team to the playoffs, he's done. You got to move on. There's nothing worse in the NFL than being mediocre. You have to take steps forward. If anything, the Dolphins are taking steps back. You know, when Brian Flores went 5-11 his first year in Miami, everybody wanted him to be coach of the year. Oh, he took a young team and he molded them into his own and everything. And then they went 10-6. Golden opportunity for the Dolphins to make the playoffs. And they got their asses kicked by Buffalo. It wasn't even close. And that was the year that Flores inexplicably benched a red-hot Ryan Fitzpatrick for Tua. And what happened? The offense stalled, and the players got pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the players thought the coach was quitting on the season just to develop the quarterback. But you're going to sit there and tell me that the Jets are a dumpster fire? Just because you go 8-8 every year doesn't make you an elite franchise. It makes you irrelevant.
Makes you mediocre, like you said.
It's irrelevant when you go 8-8. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the fucking Chargers. Nobody cares about the Dolphins because it's literally the same show every time.
Yep.
It's like, you know, when you listen to the What's Wrong with Wrestling podcast?
Yes.
And every time they announce the matches and it's the same one from last week.
Again.
Again. Or they play the Finn Balor cut, same old Monday Night Raw.
Rematch after rematch.
Yeah. Same old Miami Dolphins. We always say death, taxes, and the Steelers never changing coaches.
Yeah.
Now it's death, taxes, and the Dolphins are guaranteed to be a 500 team. Because they do nothing to show me anything different.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
And you want to know how I know that too? Because out of the 2 wins the Jacksonville Jaguars have this year, 1 is against the Dolphins. The London game. So, all right, last one. WWE had to call an audible over the weekend at the Day 1 pay-per-view after Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID-19, which resulted in the match with Brock Lesnar being called off. They moved Lesnar into the Raw Fatal 4-Way, making it a Fatal 5-Way with Big E, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, and Seth Rollins, and Lesnar wound up winning the title. I'll be honest, at first, I wasn't crazy about this, but I'm going to get to why I like it in a second.
Okay.
This could possibly set up the long-awaited feud and match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
So, Klim, did the audible inadvertently set up a feud that fans were really hoping to see in the first place?
It did. It did. And I was texting my friends about this yesterday. And they all said the same thing. Like, it's setting up Bobby Brock, something we've been waiting for 6 years now when Bobby originally came back, but my friends were making the argument the other day. You don't need to put the strap on Brock in order to have this match. You really don't. And we all know what happens when Brock Lesnar has the title. Comes back every 3 or 4 pay-per-views or so, and then that's it. We really don't see him that much. So why take the championship off TV? Granted, I understand why, and I have no problems with Brock Lesnar with the strap at all. But why take a champion off TV when you're inadvertently desperate for ratings right now?
Okay, that's fair.
I love Brock Lesnar with the belt. Love it though. Absolutely.
Okay.
No problems with it.
I wasn't crazy about it when I found out he won.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was WWE pivoting to what they do best, and that's automatically giving him the title.
Right.
That being said, here's why I like it. Because quite frankly, the Lesnar-Reigns storyline was moving way too slow.
Yes.
It was driving me crazy like it was moving so slow. And I was sick and tired of the same outcome every week. Either the Usos interfere or the Usos interfere, because that's pretty much what it was all the time. Every time Lesnar went to get his hands on Reigns, here come the fucking Usos again to act like stooges, and they get their ass kicked. Okay? After a while, it was getting really, really stale. And I had enough. I just had enough. I was not watching SmackDown because of it. Now, moving him to Raw sets up a feud with Bobby Lashley. I think Bobby Lashley is a better heel than a face. I think Bobby Lashley's persona is better. When he was a heel, when he was a face, I thought he was a little too, not goofy. I don't think goofy's the word, but you could tell he was uncomfortable.
Right.
He likes being that badass. Okay? The other reason why I like this is because can you imagine the promos wars between MVP and Paul Heyman?
That's what I was just thinking, because it already came out that I was checking Twitter. Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman already came out and announced that he's going to be the advocate for for Brock Lesnar.
So then there's that. Okay? But now what this does is that it opens up an interesting kind of can of worms for Reigns. First of all, I hope Reigns is okay.
Yes.
There's one thing I forgot about with Reigns is that he suffers from leukemia.
Yes.
So getting COVID with his health situation, with his medical situation, is a very scary thing. So I hope he makes a full recovery, because honestly, I love Reigns. I think Reigns is I think he's been a terrific heel, but I also think it's run its course. I think it's time to give it to someone else. You could go 2 different ways, actually go 3 different ways if you want to with the Rumble. You can have Seth Rollins win it, and then Seth Rollins challenges Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Then it depends on who becomes the heel, because Rollins has been a very good heel. Maybe it pivots to Reigns being a face, so he'll give up the belt at Mania to Rollins. You can go with Big E and put Big E on the map by having him beat Reigns at Mania to reestablish his main event status. Or if you really want to throw a nice curveball, you have Kevin Owens win the Rumble, and you have Kevin Owens beat Reigns at Mania.
Yeah, this is definitely the first unpredictable Royal Rumble we've had in a few years now. Because, like you said, you can go in a bunch of sort of different directions, and I'm personally going to back the horse of Kevin Owens wins the Rumble and faces Roman Reigns at Mania, or whatever it is. But with the Rumble being just 3 weeks away, we really don't have any idea who's going to win. Like the past few years, we knew Bianca was going to win, we knew Drew was going to win, we knew Becky was going to win, we knew Charlotte was going to win. We knew Seth Rollins was going to win. We knew who was going to win leading up to the Rumble. This, we don't know. And I kind of like it like that.
And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have a little bit of a surprise element to it. Okay? So, and you could go down this road in so many different ways. I would say the least likely of those 3 outcomes is Big E winning the Rumble.
Yes.
I think it's going to be either Rollins or it's going to be Owens.
Yes.
One of those guys, because I don't think Kevin Owens is signing that new contract unless they're guaranteeing him a run.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get a lengthy title run, because I don't think he would have signed for any other reason. He's not going to want to be a bit player. He'll go work the indie circuit and make crazy money doing the indie circuit. So there's a lot of different ways, but it's a good thing. Maybe WWE's finally waking up, because the one thing I liked about Day One is that it did focus more on the wrestling this time.
Yes.
And the matches are pretty good. Now, I haven't finished watching it. I'm still up to The Miz and Edge. And the thing is about the Edge matches, I love Edge, but his matches are going a little slow for me. I get bored very easily watching his matches. But it's something that you should, you got to enjoy it. But it's about the wrestling. That's what it should be about. You build the matches that people want to see because they know that they're going to get a sick wrestling match. The only other guy that I think has an outside shot of going to win the Rumble, but I don't know if I think it's too soon, is AJ Styles.
Oh, I would love for him. I need another title run with AJ.
But I think AJ Styles is going to be too busy. I think he's going to be feuding with Omos. Then they're going to kick Omos to the curb, and then AJ Styles is going to focus on being a champion.
Good.
But right now, I love what they did here. I really did. I really liked it. At first, I wasn't crazy about it. It's oh, great, Lesnar's champion again. But then I was like, Lesnar-Lashley could be a really good match.
No, it's definitely going to be a good match. We know it's going to be a good match. But what my argument is, you don't need to give Brock the title in order to have this match, you could continue to have Brock be just bounce back from show to show if you want, and him pick different feuds every week until it landed on Bobby. You didn't need to put the strap to him. But again, I have no problems at all with Brock Lesnar with the belt.
One other note that I was going to bring up is about your boy Jake Paul.
My boy Jake Paul?
Yeah. I don't know if he's your boy. I think everybody.
Look, if he's my boy, first of all, I am very poor. So Jake, can I please have some money? Second, no. My younger brother always asks me. He's like, Chris, do you think you could beat Jake Paul in a fight? I was like, you give me 2 years of good boxing training, I won't be able to knock Jake out. I can guarantee you that. It's an A1 Sports Network statement, by the way.
Klim, this is not a prediction. This is a spoiler. If I give you 2 years of certified boxing training or a fight for Jake Paul, I will bet he knocks you out in the second round.
Probably.
And you're my boy. Okay? But even I know. And I think you know too.
Look, I used to be athletic. There were times when I wasn't a narp.
That key word, key phrase.
Used to. My God.
Jake Paul's apparently now in a war with Dana White after he beat Tyron Woodley. He wants to apparently fight Jorge Masvidal or Nate Diaz. I hope Nate Diaz kicks his fucking ass everywhere. I love Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is one of my favorite UFC fighters, and I don't follow UFC to the bone, but man, Nate Diaz is a badass all the way.
You know what this screams with him getting talking to Dana White? We have to have our boy back on.
We got to have Ike.
Got to get Ike back. It's been a while since we've talked to Ike.
Yeah. So apparently, Jake Paul was talking shit to Dana White about beating Tyron Woodley, and he basically I embarrassed your organization, whatever. And now he's coming up with some kind of demands for Jake Paul to go to UFC and fight one of the fighters. Something about he wants Dana White to be tested for cocaine, and Dana White said, "Fine." He's like, "You could test me for the next 10 years for cocaine, but I get to test you for the next 2 years of steroids." Because he basically said that he thinks that Jake Paul's roiding. He's like,
I wouldn't put it past him.
But here's my thing again. We talked about this last week about Jake Paul. And the thing about Jake Paul is that I can't take him seriously in a boxing ring until he beats a real fighter.
Yes.
I'm not saying he's not impressive, and I do think he is committed. I will give him that. I definitely think he trains hard. I don't think it's bullshit. I definitely think he wants to be a fighter. But the problem with Jake Paul right now is everybody knows he's a novelty act.
Mm-hmm.
They are not willing to put the farm on him in a fight against a real boxer. Because if that real boxer knocks him out, his career is over.
Yes.
It's over. There's no comeback fight. It's over. Okay? You know, people criticize CM Punk for MMA, for being a bad MMA fighter, but at least he went in the octagon and fought some real fighters.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he fought his mailman in a freaking backyard brawl. Okay? He fought guys that have experience in MMA. They may not be, UFC caliber, or maybe they're just, getting their, they're getting started. But those guys have mixed martial arts experience in the octagon. And that's why you respect CM Punk's MMA career a little bit, even though it was a disaster. Jake Paul has not fought anybody legitimately good in boxing. And until he does that, I can't respect his game as a boxer.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's just not possible.
No, you're 100% right about it, because right now it's just a novelty. Like, okay, look at the really good boxer that is Jake Paul. And granted, yeah, I'm behind him, giving it 110% in his fights, taking it seriously, doing all this training and whatnot. But right now, like you said, until he fights someone like a real boxer, it's all novelty. It's all a show.
But you see what I mean now? Now it's just a war of words with Dana White. I mean, what is that going to do for Jake Paul's career? Okay? You see, and that's why I can't take him seriously. Because now I start to doubt myself if he's taking it seriously. I think he's taking the training seriously.
Yes.
But I think at the same time, he's not interested in fighting real boxers. He just wants to pick on these MMA guys whose game is not necessarily boxing. Stand-up is part of their game, but not the whole game.
Yeah, like Tyron Woodley's big thing was wrestling. He was a wrestler. That's his main thing. He's not a boxer. Same thing with Ben Askren. Ben Askren is a wrestler, not a boxer. You get a guy who has a boxing background or anything like that, then yeah, by all means.
Okay. You know what I equate this to? Have you ever been to a carnival? You ever seen a movie with like carnival barkers, and there's that guy with the megaphone going, "Step right up and, you can defeat the world's strongest man." That's what Jake Paul is right now. He's a sideshow. He's a sideshow. And I don't know if he knows it. I don't know if he believes it. But when you have Le'Veon Bell trying to challenge you to a fight, you're a fucking sideshow. When you have insert name of UFC fighter here ready to challenge Jake Paul to a boxing match, you are a sideshow. That's it.
And everyone's gonna want to do that because of the fact that, one, he's Jake Paul, and everyone wants to he's just one of those guys you just want to beat the shit out of.
But the thing about him is he really believes he's the greatest boxer of all time. His ego is getting the better of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to be his downfall. Because then he's going to get that opportunity to fight a boxer with a winning record, a guy who's sparred with some big-time opponents, and he's not going to know what the fuck to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to get his ass kicked, and it's going to show. Remember, you ever see the documentary about the Brawl for All?
Yes.
Was it really good?
That was really good.
But it was a stupid idea, right?
Dumb idea.
So when they had Bart Gunn, and they tried to build Bart Gunn up to be this boxer because he won Brawl for All, which was basically just like slap fighting.
Yeah.
Right? And then they said, "Oh, let's get him in the ring with Butterbean." And Butterbean fucked him up. It wasn't even close.
And Butterbean himself is already a novelty.
And because of that, Bart Gunn's career was over.
Yep.
Because he got in the ring with a guy who knows how to fight, who knows how to handle himself in the ring, who knows how to work 12 rounds like it's nothing, and he beat his ass.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. One last thing before we get into our how former Jets fared this week, and it was another doozy, Klim. These are the weeks. I thank God for Joe Douglas. Toni Storm, I don't know if you saw this, came out and basically gave her, explained herself as to why she quit WWE.
I did not see that. No.
Okay, so I'll read it to you right now. I have it right here. Quote, WWE has been very high demanding. I missed my cousin's wedding, Christmases, my nephew's circumcision, a little TMI, and my father's intervention. I've come to realize, I think they read my dream, but I guess if they quoted her word for word, like, Australians always say, like, or London, or people go, oh yeah, when I choose me pictures.
Yeah.
Right? So it says, I've come to realize me dream of a WWE star is nothing more than sacrificing my time just to put over some bitch that really feels we must bow down to her, not just in the ring, but off camera. And if you want to read between the lines in this last sentence, perhaps I should go somewhere else where I can make an impact.
Ah.
Now, you know who she's married to, right? Or she's her fiance?
Yeah, you said Juice Robinson, right?
Juice Robinson, who's in Impact. He's also in New Japan. He kind of goes between both. Here's the crazy part about Toni Storm. She's not wrong.
No, she's not.
She's not wrong. And you knew who she was talking about.
Yeah.
She was talking about Charlotte Flair all the way.
Oh, yeah.
So bravo to Toni Storm. I love her. And she's great.
I was going to say, but that's the problem with the WWE. If your name isn't Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, or Bianca Belair right now, they don't care about you, which is crazy because just a few years ago, WWE arguably had the best women's division in all of professional wrestling, and it wasn't even close. So far to the fact that they had to make a Royal Rumble because the WWE's women's division was so good. Make their own pay-per-view, let alone that they had to, because that's how good it was. But now you look at it, and you have credible talent. Girls like Asuka, Nikki Cross before she was Nikki Ash, Rhea, Alexa Bliss, Toni Storm, Zelina Vega, Ember Moon, Tegan Nox, all girls who were either buried or quit or got fired because their gimmick ran dry because of the fact that their names aren't Sasha, Bailey, Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte, Becky, or Bianca Belair.
Yeah, and the thing is, as long this is the NXT call-up curse.
Yep,
they get called up and they get kicked to the curb just like that. I hope not Nikki Cross, Toni Storm goes to Impact. Impact to me has a good product. I think the production sucks, and I think they need to find a place where the fans are more rabid, which they have had a very hard time doing. They keep doing these shows in Vegas. I'm assuming because it's more cost effective, but the crowd is so dead.
Yeah.
I've been saying for a while, they need to try to work out an arrangement to come do shows in New York at like either the Hammerstein Ballroom or the Paramount, right?
Ooh, Paramount would be fun.
Can you imagine how that crowd will be fired up for Impact Wrestling?
Oh, yeah.
To come to like the Paramount. They just do shows there every freaking week. They pick the worst places to do shows, and the thing is, the wrestling is good, the characters are good, they have a good roster, but the production just stinks. And it's just very disinteresting.
No, I think Toni will definitely thrive in Impact if that's where she goes. But like I was just saying, the WWE women's division has gotten very bad. And I will say this, even about AEW's women's division, it's still not great, but it's getting better. They built up girls like Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, even Britt Baker to an extent too. That you gain interest because I love Thunder Rosa now. I think she's in a great.
What I'm concerned about is they've already given away the winner of the TBS championship.
Oh yeah,
Mercedes Martinez interfering. So, and the thing is, if Ruby Soho doesn't win the title, then again, it's going to start looking like she's being wasted.
Yeah, But I have no problems with her winning the title again. But that's the thing, though. They're building up these characters, girls like Mercedes Martinez now to an extent, because we know what she was. Same thing with Ruby Soho. We know what she was in WWE. But girls like Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, Jade Cargill, Britt Baker, Anna Jay, Tay Conti, all these girls are getting built up, and it's like, okay, they can really wrestle. They're getting a little bit of a spotlight, unlike on WWE, where, like I said, if your name isn't one of the 4 horsewomen on Bianca Belair, they don't care about you.
By the way, do yourself a favor. If you get a chance, you got to watch the street fight on AEW between Penelope Ford and the Bunny against Tay Conti and Anna Jay. They freaking killed each other.
I saw highlights. I heard it was really good.
It was a freaking good match, like really, really good match. And what I liked about it more than anything was it wasn't like main eventers. It was like the up and coming women of their division just killing each other in a street fight.
And that's what I'm saying. They're giving the AEW is giving these women a chance to show their worth, show that, hey, maybe Tanara Conti could be a main event champion. Same thing with you're establishing Anna Jay, the Bunny, and the other chick as, okay, these are credible wrestlers.
Yeah.
WWE's not doing that.
No, not at all. Hopefully 2022 brings a different year for them, but who knows?
Who knows, yeah.
All right, let's close out the show for tonight. We'll do this is the part of the program where we recap how former Jets did this week. We will exclude Jamal Adams, who is out for the season. We will exclude Chris Herndon, who did not have a catch again for the Vikings yesterday, but he also got hurt. He hurt his neck in the game. So here we go. We'll start with Sam Darnold, who made his return to the starting role for the Carolina Panthers. 17 of 26, 132 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception, and they lost 18-10. For the season, Sam Darnold, 2,308 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 5 rushing touchdowns, and a QBR of 34.2.
Oh, my God.
Now, here's the crazy part. I was looking this up. So the Panthers are on the hook for him for the 5th-year option at $18.9 million. They can try to trade him if they want, but the problem is not only did they trade their 2nd and 4th round picks to the Jets, they traded their 3rd round pick to the Jaguars to get C.J. Henderson, which I did not know. I forgot about that. So basically, they're going to be picking in the 1st round, and they don't pick again to the 5th round. So those middle round picks, they don't have anything now that they can trade. And their 1st round pick is going to be a top 10 pick, so they're not going to get rid of that.
Oh, my God.
That trade just looks better and better for Joe Douglas. And the thing is, I think as of right now, I think the Jets would pick 34th and 37th in the 2nd round.
Sounds about right.
And they pick 4th and I think 8th in the 1st round. For either 8th or 9th, I'm not really sure, because Seattle won yesterday.
Gotta love it. Gotta absolutely love it.
All right, Robbie Anderson. 2 catches, 7 yards, no touchdowns, and they lost 18-10. For the season, 46 catches, 469 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
So bad.
I mean, he's only had 3 games with over 50 yards receiving and only 1 with over 75 yards receiving. And then, of course, he's had the attitude issues, ripping Darnold on the sideline, and then, and celebrating a 1st down when they were down by 26. Last but not least, Leonard Williams. 8 tackles, 6 of them on assists, no sacks, no forced fumbles, and a 29-3 loss to the Bears for the season. 33 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. So here's the thing about Leonard Williams. Just for the price that for the money he's making, he has not been consistent enough. Mm-hmm. And outside of a stretch in October and November where he had all of his sacks, he's done nothing. Like, he's done nothing. Now, you can grade him on other things if you want, but I don't see the consistent pressure that everybody sees. And I mean, I don't sit there and watch tons of Giants film all the time, but I don't see these things. And like I said, for over $20 million a year, he should be doing a lot better than 5.5 sacks. And the thing is, one of the picks that I don't remember who the other 5th-round pick was that the Jets drafted. I don't know if it was the Nasruddin or Sherwood pick, but the 3rd-round pick, if I remember right, was Ashton Davis.
Yes.
Ashton Davis really hasn't been a bad player for the Jets. I think he's just getting a bit of a raw deal. It was so funny because the other day on Connor Hughes' podcast, I totally caught him contradicting himself about Ashton Davis.
He's getting better, I will say, Ashton Davis.
He was trying to say that Ashton Davis in the very beginning was like, oh, he shouldn't be on the field. He sucks. He basically was saying in not too many words that he's terrible, terrible, terrible. But then some guy, they were having a call-in portion of the show, and some guy called in and said, you've kind of killed Ashton Davis, but Pro Football PFF has him ranked as a top 15 safety in the league. And he has 2 interceptions, and he has 3 forced fumbles this year for the Jets, which are not bad numbers for a guy who's barely played in 2 years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Ashton Davis, Connor Hughes, went into this whole thing about how, well, he didn't have OTAs, he didn't have training camp. I don't know, Klim, you remember who said that? About the 2020 draft class? Give you a hint?
You said it.
You're looking right at him?
You said it.
All right. What did I say? I said the 2020 draft class has had no OTAs. They've had no training camp. Everything was condensed. They didn't play any preseason games. And what that did was it led to them getting hurt when they got to play in the regular season. Man, I hate it when I'm right. And that is why I'm convinced that there are people who watch this show that we don't know about because they always seem to have the same opinions as me.
Well, we know Samini stopped in that one time to check up.
Yeah, he was cool, man. Samini's cool. Sometimes I think he gets a little melodramatic with his Jet stuff, but I thought it was pretty cool that he was able to watch us. But again, you got to give these guys time. If you don't give them time, they're never going to develop into anything good. They do mid-season report cards. Brandon Echols is getting a D. It's a 6th-round pick. Now all of a sudden it's, the Jets might have found something with Brandon Echols. But you got to give him time. And the funny thing, you want to know what bothered me about the whole shit with Darnold? Is that people were trying to give him a pass and saying shit like, oh, yeah, well, he didn't have his offensive line. His offensive line isn't that good. Stop giving Darnold the pass, man. He's garbage. He stinks. He's still making the same mistake 3 years later. He sucks. You got to get over it now. The Panthers made a bad decision to trade him to get him from the Jets, and that's it.
Be happy he's gone, yeah.
And that's why Joe Douglas is a great general manager. He just knows when to get rid of these guys. Just knows. So that closes out that part. Next week will be the last week of the season where we'll tally up the entire season for all the players that we were following most of the season. All right, Klim, anything before we get out of here?
That is it, really. That is it.
Wow. Guess you're all wiped out from the Sauna Chronicles, huh?
My workout kicked my ass today, I will say. Real quick, that Notre Dame really botched the Fiesta Bowl.
I don't watch college football anymore. I'm sick and tired of seeing Alabama in a national championship.
I was rooting for Cincy and Michigan so hard. I was like, come on, let's see something different.
I'm so over Alabama being in the freaking championship game every year. The college football is not fun. It's just not fun anymore. Notre Dame will never win a national championship because they preach academics over athletics. They will never recruit blue chip college football players, high school football players who don't have the GPA to get into Notre Dame. And that is why they will never win a national championship. It doesn't matter. So I'll just leave it at that. I got nothing. Just a quick spoiler, or not a spoiler, but a quick up note. The Islanders game against Toronto that was in April is now being moved to January.
Nice.
So because down at the Islanders once again get another freaking hiatus thanks to Canada. They can't go to Seattle. They can't go to Calgary. They can't go to Vancouver this week because they're not allowed into Canada. So it's just kind of a mess right now. But apparently I think the Islanders Maple Leafs game that was scheduled for April is now being moved to January.
Nice.
So January 22nd, I believe, is the date of the game. Saturday night. So All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Moffett on the Mic. I'd like to thank everybody for checking us out, whether you check this out on StreamYard or on Facebook Live or on YouTube. You can follow the show, as always, on Instagram, Moffett on the Mic, and on my Facebook page as well. Follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Klim, thank you for holding it down like you normally do. Next week, what are we doing?
Should be good.
Should we go for Monday?
Yep.
All right. Next Monday night, we'll be back with our end of the season recap for the Jets and Giants and whatever else we could squeeze into the program as well. So again, on behalf of Klim, this is Craig. This has been the Moffett on the Mic show. Wherever you are, stay safe. Have a great rest of your week. And we will see you next Monday night right here, 7:30-ish on the A1 Sports Network feed on StreamYard. Everybody have a great week. Take care. Stay safe. And we'll be back next Monday night. Have a great week, everybody.